And welcome. My name's Mr. Hamilton. We are here for our first of many lectures to help you prepare for AP Environmental Science. Today's lesson is on ecosystem basics, and we would like to get you started with part one, the components. So you want to be ready to take notes, and we'll get started. But make sure that before we get started, that you are wide awake, ready to go, and listening very carefully, because there's some very important information we're going to be going over here. All right, so let's start off. We're going to start with the concept of ecology and what exactly ecology is. Ecology is the study of the interactions and connections within the natural world. So what we're talking about when we're talking about ecology is the idea of studying interactions between the many different types of living organisms within an ecosystem and how they interact between themselves and also between the non-living part of an ecosystem. So when we talk about ecology, we're talking about a study of the interactions just to see if you're awake, okay? And those interactions are between the living and non-living part, okay, of an ecosystem. All right, so ecology is basically the study of ecosystems. All right, so when you talk about ecosystems, we are still in the discussion of this idea of interaction between species, between each other, and the non-living part of an ecosystem. Okay, so those are two very basic, simple concepts. All right, we'll move on if we can. When we look at the structure of our living world, we will see that we have it separated into levels of complexity, and we start off with the largest level of complexity being the biosphere. All right, the biosphere is the layer of life on the planet. Okay, we call it the layer of life. All right, it is made up of the atmosphere. Okay, it's made up of the lithosphere, the upper part of the lithosphere. Okay, and everything in between. All right, now a biosphere can be divided into what we like to call biomes, which we've already covered, but then those can be broken down into ecosystems. All right, the ecosystems then can be broken down into communities, all the way down through populations, and then eventually to individuals, or what we call the species. Okay, so if you have many individuals, you make up a population. Okay, if you have populations interacting with each other, okay, and different species interacting with each other, we call that a community. And then we have a community interacting with the non-living part of the environment. We then jump to the idea of an ecosystem. So that's the layers of complexity of our natural world. Okay, and let me just get rid of this. Remember, I'm a rookie, so bear with me as we go through this. So ecosystems can be very large, as we see over here on the left with Yellowstone National Park. Or it could be very small. An ecosystem could be even within the hole in a tree, where you have an interaction with many different organisms, okay, and interacting with their non-living components of the environment. So it could be large, small, medium-sized, many different types. And so that's really what we're going to be focusing on, this whole idea of ecosystems. Okay. Now, we said that an ecosystem is made up of a community that's comprised of populations. This gets to be very important when we talk about calculating population density and things like that. Basically, populations of different particular species come in three patterns. One is called random, which I think is quite obvious. Okay, and you can see that over here with the forest, with different particular species of trees that they're randomly placed throughout. Okay, if you have a population in which every single individual has staked out an area equidistant from another individual, okay, where it's more uniform, we call that a uniform population. And that's what you see in this picture. Uniform means that they're equally spaced out. That's a rare form, but you'll see it in many places, especially like nesting sites and certain species that produce toxins that don't allow others to grow nearby, things like that. And then finally, the last one is what we call clumped. All right, and that's where you find them in groups. All right, together where there's a lot of space in between. So within a population, okay, we look at the patterns of the individuals within that population. That's going to become very important as we study ecosystems in the future. Okay? As we move along, here we got fish, and you can see that a school of fish is a perfect example of which of those three? And hopefully you shouted out clumped. This is a clumped population distribution because they're found in small areas. Okay? A herd of grazing animals. What type of population pattern do you see here? And we like to call this random, where they are scattered randomly throughout, in this case, a savanna, let's say. Okay? Or you got uniform, where they're spaced out evenly. So those are the three types of population patterns. Okay? Now let's look at the interactions between the different species within an ecosystem. And the first type is called predator-prey. And I think this is quite obvious. A predator-prey is what we call a feeding relationship. All right? Animal being the prey is the one being eaten, and the predator is the one who's doing the eating. In this case, you got a snow bunny being chased by a lynx, or a snow hare. This particular graph at the bottom is going to become important because when you look at these two species, their interaction between each other, it's very important to understand that when you look at a population chart, look at the prey species population. That dictates the predator's population. Prey being their food. If there's enough food, the predator population is going to go up. When the predator population goes up, it takes away more of the prey. Their population declines. When the prey population declines, the predator population has declined because there's no longer enough food. So you'll see this over and over and over again. As the predator population increases, the prey population decreases, which then puts stress on the predator population. It then has to decrease. Okay? So it's very important to understand this relationship between the two in a graph like that. All right? But we're just beginning here.